Sergeant VX observed the new consultant to the Rovian military as he strode into the command center. The human stood out with his towering stature, pink complexion, and a slight tuft of hair on the top of his head. Unlike the Rovians, with their robust carapaces, the human appeared physically less imposing. Despite this, Colonel Gorak had spoken highly of the human's credentials. "Greetings," articulated the human, his speech seamlessly translated into the Rovian dialect by his universal translator. "I am Lieutenant Alex Hayes. It is with great anticipation that I undertake the role of advisor to your battalion." A murmur rippled through the assembled staff officers, who exchanged curious glances. VX performed a gesture of respect customary among Rovian warriors, acknowledging a fellow combatant. VX, his skepticism evident, asked, "What combat experiences have you encountered? Your unarmored skin suggests limited exposure to warfare." Hayes responded with a calm smile, revealing small teeth that, despite their size, seemed deceptively capable of piercing flesh. "My military service includes 2 deployments combating insurgents on Mars. During those missions, I witnessed and endured the loss of numerous esteemed colleagues." VX's antennae inclined in an apologetic gesture. "My apologies for my presumption. Many sentient beings harbor an aversion to combat, often seeking to evade military service. Yet, you chose to enlist despite your seemingly fragile constitution. What motivated such a decision?" Before VX could delve deeper, alarms blared throughout the base, signaling increased enemy activity at the perimeter. "Proceed to your designated posts. It appears the enemy is probing our defenses in preparation for a significant offensive," VX ordered. The command center erupted into a frenzy of activity as soldiers hurried to their stations. Holographic maps displayed a surge of red indicators, marking enemy advancements toward the base. Lieutenant Hayes remained composed, carefully observing the evolving situation. VX initiated communication with the perimeter units. "Status report from perimeter units." A report crackled through from Sentry Tower 3. "We are under severe attack. Breaches have occurred," the voice reported before abruptly cutting off, signaling a severed communication line. More red indicators on the map flickered off, suggesting further breaches. "How did they circumvent our sensors?" VX questioned aloud, his multiple eyes scanning the updates from the reconnaissance units, which were now rendered obsolete. Hayes leaned over the holographic table, his keen eyes swiftly analyzing the battlefield layout. "May I?" he asked. VX nodded, granting permission. Hayes activated a tactical overlay on the map, highlighting key points. Analyzing the timing of their strikes, it appears the enemy has seized control of these sensor towers instead of destroying them. This has allowed them to transmit falsified data and mask their troop movements here. He pointed to a sector that had previously appeared clear. VX turned his visual appendages towards the human, scrutinizing his suggestion. "Are you certain of this strategy?" "It aligns with tactics I encountered on Earth," Hayes explained. "By controlling the sensor towers, the enemy can mislead our defenses. We should reassign our anti-armor units to intercept them at these points." "Implement that strategy," VX commanded, recognizing the human's tactical acumen. The officers promptly mobilized to execute Hayes's recommendations. Although Hayes's physical presence seemed unimposing compared to the Rovians, his strategic insights proved incisive and valuable. As the officers moved to their stations, holographic displays continued to update with real-time data. The red indicators, which had signaled enemy movements, began to shift as the anti-armor units redeployed according to Hayes's strategy. The room buzzed with a mix of urgency and newfound confidence. VX monitored the updates closely, his respect for the human growing. Despite his initial doubts, Hayes had quickly demonstrated an understanding of the battlefield that rivaled seasoned Rovian tacticians. The true test of his strategies, however, would soon unfold as the enemy's full offensive pressed against their newly realigned defenses. Alerts subsequently confirmed the breach of the main gates. The last operational external cameras captured images of armored infantry flooding into the base, their demeanor malevolent and intent on destruction. Defensive protocols were activated throughout the command center. With the enemy poised to penetrate the confined spaces of the base, palpable tension enveloped the soldiers, manifesting in physical anxiety. The scent of impending death pervaded the air, mingling with the acrid odors of explosives and charred metal infiltrating from the ventilation system, accompanied by distant cries of anguish. Amidst this chaos, Lieutenant Hayes remained detached, a melody from an alien song softly emanating from him as he monitored the defense arrangements. Noticing Vax's observant gaze, he simply shrugged. "The scenes of combat on Earth have left enduring impressions upon me," he remarked. VX regarded him anew, a newfound respect dawning. "It seems your world fosters warriors as tough as Goric soldiers." "Quite accurate," Hayes replied. "Perhaps after we've secured a victory here, I'll share stories of Earth's jungle guerrillas with you. They harness the elements of surprise and ruthlessness as effectively as any plasma cannon. Compared to them, these foes seem less formidable." VX emitted a harsh laugh, struck by the remark. This human continually displayed remarkable bravery. Expressing his respect, GRA clacked his claws together. "You honor your species. Indeed, we may yet succeed if others exhibit your kind of fortitude." Brax acknowledged. "Let's then introduce them to some surprises," Hayes suggested with a fierce and determined grin. Shortly thereafter, the initial assault impacted their fortifications. The enemy, adept in close-quarters combat, found themselves stifled by Hayes's strategically arranged crossfires. He then manned the gunnery controls, unleashing plasma bursts with lethal precision. The advancing enemy forces were decimated, transformed into a scene of carnage. A handful of warriors breached the perimeter by sacrificing many of their own. Hayes confronted them, his sidearm poised expertly. He felled two with precise shots to their foreheads before they could respond. A third warrior paused mid-charge, bewildered by the sight of what appeared to be a vulnerable opponent single-handedly stemming the tide of seasoned combatants. In that brief pause, Hayes expertly dispatched the soldier by targeting a vulnerable joint in the neck, felling him instantly. Observing Hayes's resolute stance emboldened the Royan troops, who rallied with cries of "For the home world!" and surged forward into a counterattack. Initially aggressive, the enemy forces began to retreat as their fierce demeanor diminished against the solidified Royan defense. This shift sparked a surge of hope among the defenders, fostering the belief that they might indeed repel the incursion. Amidst this tentative optimism, the command center was suddenly rocked by explosions. "Breach detected in the ventral corridor," was the urgent announcement. Internal sensors detected movement, presumably a demolition team targeting critical infrastructure. "I will hold them off," declared Hayes, preparing his weapon with a swift motion. "Request immediate reinforcement." Armed only with a compact Royan combat knife, Hayes left the command center unaccompanied. VX harbored concerns for his safety, particularly given his lack of protective armor, but recognized there was no time to dissuade the determined, albeit potentially reckless, warrior. The security cameras captured Hayes's calculated advance down the corridor, utilizing the walls for cover. He halted just short of an intersection, monitoring his motion scanner intently. As two enemies rounded the corner, Hayes reacted with exceptional speed. He plunged his knife deeply into the throat of the first adversary, causing the enemy to collapse, choking. Swiftly seizing the fallen soldier's plasma rifle, Hayes executed a point-blank shot through the faceplate of the second soldier. Both adversaries were incapacitated, writhing on the floor as they succumbed to their injuries. As another enemy squad advanced down the perpendicular hallway, Hayes quickly deployed a grenade, skillfully flushing them out. The resulting explosion was followed by a hail of searing plasma, felling another trio of adversaries, while their return fire failed to reach the agile human. Swiftly, Hayes replaced the depleted heatsink in his rifle, preparing for the next assault wave. His movements, honed through decades of combat, were fluid and precise. Every alien within the command center was riveted to the security feed, watching as Lieutenant Hayes single-handedly defended the corridor. Methodically, he retreated, setting deadly ambushes at each strategic point, leaving more enemies fallen in his wake. His relentless firing pinned the demolition team in a critical junction, effectively neutralizing their advance until reinforcements could secure the area. When Vax's forces finally reached Hayes, they found a chilling scene. 15 enemy soldiers lay lifeless in the corridors, a testament to Hayes's lethal proficiency. Leaning nonchalantly against a door frame, surrounded by neatly arranged grenades and ammunition, Hayes appeared remarkably composed. "Took you boys long enough. I saved a couple live ones for questioning," he remarked with a hint of menace, reloading his pistol with calm efficiency before gripping his knife once more. Even the battle-hardened Royan warriors maintained a respectful distance. Together, they proceeded through the smoldering corridors, methodically eliminating any remaining threats. Hayes demonstrated an uncanny knowledge of potential ambush locations and likely hiding spots. His excitement was palpable, and his aim unerring as each new encounter with the enemy erupted into gunfire. After an intense 5 hours of continuous engagement, the command center finally declared the all-clear. Although less than a third of the base's defenders were still capable of standing, their enemies had been decisively crushed, their attempts to penetrate the defenses leaving them bloodied against the fortifications they sought to overcome. Through skill and spirit, they had prevailed. Officers and troopers alike congregated around their savior. His uniform marked by sapphire stains and singed by plasma fire, Lieutenant Hayes allowed his men to relieve him of his weapons and gear, showing more irritation at strained muscles than concern for the shrapnel wounds marring his skin. When medical assistance was offered, he dismissed it with a gesture. "Attend to your own first. I've weathered far greater injuries than these mere scratches." Refreshments and nutrient-rich rations were brought to him. Hayes consumed his meal with vigor, interspersing bites with tales of close-quarters combat that captivated his audience. He engaged in exchanges about spiritual tattoos and ritual scars with the alien warriors, seamlessly integrating into their ranks. His demeanor oscillated between humor and a vivid recounting of battle exploits. Observing this formidable yet charismatic figure, VX could readily believe that this human was shaped by battle, equal to any Royan in prowess and pride. "You have unequivocally demonstrated your skill and valor today," VX eventually declared. "Indeed, the Galactic Alliance's confidence in your species was well placed." Hayes responded with a somber smile. "I'm merely pleased that I could safeguard my new comrades." Raising a drink in salute, he added, "You performed admirably for novices. Remain with me, and perhaps you will ascend to the ranks of professionals." That evening, the unit bonded deeply, their camaraderie cemented by shared ordeal and victory. Tales of the unassuming yet formidable alien, who single-handedly thwarted an overwhelming invasion, began to circulate beyond Rovia, inspiring awe and admiration. Commanders from various sectors now eagerly sought human advisors, recognizing their profound tactical acumen honed on even harsher battlefields unknown to the Royan. Humanity had refined its martial capabilities through relentless conflicts among its diverse nations. Now unified, they were beginning to unleash their full military potential across the cosmic expanse. The Galactic Alliance had initially envisioned these adept newcomers in supportive capacities. Yet after observing the unbridled ferocity of humans in combat, seasoned warriors like Sergeant Meyer were convinced of a deeper truth. This young species still harbored an intrinsic affinity for battle, an indelible trait woven into their very DNA. It was clear that no force in the cosmos could permanently suppress the fundamental nature of humanity.